liebe. Ey, guck mal, was denn, wo ich hingucken soll? Ja, wir sind in Australien. Das kommt, glaube ich, jetzt ziemlich unerwartet. Also folgende Geschichte. Ihr erinnert euch an das Video. R34 GT-R V-Spec, wunderschön und der kann eigentlich auch normal auf den Rädern stehen. Das tut er in diesem Fall nicht. Genau, also man fragt natürlich, wie er darauf gekommen ist. Und das finden wir in diesem Video alle mal zusammen raus. Es ist auf jeden Fall sehr unterhaltsam und sehr spaßig. Ach ja, wir sind in Tokio. Und es endete mit unserem wunderschönen 34er. Also hier, Pony Sauda. In Tokio. Das war schon ein paar Tage her. Ne, im Januar war das. Und voller Euphorie ging dieses Fahrzeug auf Schiff nach Australien, wo wir auch gerade sind. Deswegen ist nur jetzt wie folgt, dass diese Energie etwas gedämpft gerade ist, denn das Fahrzeug ist immer noch im Zoll. Unsere beiden Popos sind hier. Der GT-R ist auch hier. Das ist ungefähr da, in der Innenstadt. Im Hafengebiet und der Wagen kommt nicht aus dem Zoll raus. Weil wir wollten euch überraschen, weil natürlich haben alle gedacht, nach den Tokio-Videos geht der GT-R nach Deutschland und ist alles wieder ganz normal, wie es immer ist. Alles läuft so, wie man sich das vorstellt. Dann wird der umgebaut und alles ist schön, ach, wir freuen uns so doll. Und ich habe mir gedacht, nee, dieses Mal machen wir es ein bisschen anders, denn der Wagen ist halt hier hingekommen und wir wollten, vielleicht schaffen wir es noch, es sieht momentan relativ gut aus, dass wir es schaffen, dass wir den Wagen hier umbauen in Australien mit einem dicken Motor und allen möglichen anderen dicken geilen Sachen und werden euch zeigen, welche Firmen welche Teile wirklich wie wo machen. Und das ist wirklich ein anderes Level, das kann ich euch schon mal sagen. Ja, wir müssen zu jemandem hingehen gerade. Weil ich bin der Meinung, die besten GT-R-Motoren werden in Australien gebaut. Mit Abstand. Also die schnellsten Autos überhaupt kommen hierher und die haben hier wirklich einen an der Karre. Also das ist, Amerika ist krass, überall, die sind alle wirklich heavy drauf, aber die Australier in Sachen GT-R sind immer ein ganz anderes Level. Ich meine, wir haben ja schon was gesehen. Ja, stimmt. Ja. Wir haben ja schon ein, zwei Sachen jetzt gerade gesehen. Also hier, die haben echt, ich glaube, weil die so separat sind, wir haben ja gerade gesehen beim Ranzoom, Australien ist wirklich für sich. Ich glaube, die kriegen nicht mit, wann Schluss ist. Ja. Und die kriegen auch nicht mit, wann es reicht. Also das ist hier wirklich eine ganz andere Nummer. Plus, es ist arschkalt in Australien. Es regnet. Es ist wirklich sehr, sehr, sehr schlechtes Wetter. Haben wir auch nicht mit gerechnet. Nee, sieht auch gerade aus auf der Kamera, als ob du, keine Ahnung, wärst. Das verbrauchst du. Als Beispiel, ja. Ja, ist auch. Also können wirklich so sein. So, jetzt gehen wir zu jemandem hin. Jeder, der JDM-Boy ist und im YouTube-Game so ein bisschen unterwegs ist und guckt sich so ein paar Videos an, kennt den Menschen. Wir haben ihn schon gesehen auf der SEMA-Show und auf jeden Fall... In Tokio auch. In Tokio auch, stimmt. Unser Begleiter hier in seiner Heimat ist Andrew und der Typ ist wirklich einmalig. Voll. Der ist einmalig, der Typ. Also wirklich, muss ich wirklich sagen, ganz großes Kompliment. So, ich muss mal ganz kurz was loswerden, bevor es hier losgeht. Erstmal, Andrew und ich verstehen uns wirklich sehr gut und wir verplappern uns ziemlich stark in diesem Video. Uns ist Englisch, was mir absolut bewusst ist, aber wir geben uns wirklich die größte Mühe, dass man so viel wie möglich versteht. Und eine weitere Sache, die ich wirklich gelernt habe, ist, wir sind da halt Gäste und es ist schwer, dass die Leute uns das ermöglichen, was uns so in Deutschland immer ermöglicht wird oder in Amerika, weil die dann einfach sagen so, oh ja, das ist auch gut für mich so als Firma. Da heißt die Welt auch so ein bisschen anders. Es ist halt einfach echt neutraler. Wir sind da Gäste und man redet dann und dann sagt man ja danke und tschüss. Also ich gebe mir die größte Mühe, um euch da so viel wie möglich wiedergeben zu können. Genießt es, habt Spaß. Es ist eine Australienreise, die wirklich sehr viel Details in sich hat. Und glaubt mir, es wird auch noch sehr laut und sehr, sehr, sehr schnell. What's up, man? You good? I'm great.
We had 4 international guests this year. The father of GT-R, Hiroshi Tamura, Sakamoto from Garage Active, Mickey from Throttle, and entertainer Dan Rue or Dancing Dan. Well, other than usual pre-event things happening and, you know, all that sort of stuff, but yeah, overall good.
You're always good.
Yeah, always good.
I mean, one thing is, when I met you in America, you had a little more attitude. You were like, everything GT-R.
That's Aussie GT-R noises right there.
When you talk to him here, you're a little bit more relaxed.
I've got to represent my people. That's
yeah, when you're out of country, you got to show where you're from.
I had to show what we do. I showed you what we do. So,
you did. Also, mit ihm werden wir unseren Motor bauen. Der Motor ist schon gebaut, er steht dort. Aber wir werden gleich die verschiedenen Bauteile uns angucken, was in unseren Motor reingekommen ist. Werden euch dieser Reise mitnehmen, weil zum Beispiel was in dieser Kiste drin ist wirklich etwas... No, we don't show it. We don't show now.
It's not secret.
Ist wirklich next level stuff. Also ist wirklich, wirklich krass. So the engine that we are building is from a level of style pretty good. Of course, there's way more power possible. Yeah. But I think for R34, the style of engine that we are putting together is a very nice engine.
The engine we've built for you can definitely handle 1,000 plus. Like it's built for 9.5 to 10,000 RPM. It's got the camshaft and the head and the valve work, everything for it. The bottom end's a wide journal and like it's an N1 block. Like it's a 1,000 horsepower engine, but with low mount turbos and pump gas, that's going to be the restriction on power. So in terms of a power perspective, same with your gearbox. Like everything is there for when you call me to say, Andrew, I'm bored with 600. Can I have 1,000, please? So we've future-proofed the engine and gearbox.
Okay. So let's have a look. I think some parts are there, right?
So he'll be back from Nitto very soon. He'll have the crank rods, pistons. If you want to wait, I've also got like your diff cover and a bunch of other stuff.
Let's look at that, what we have right now.
You want to see what we got right now? Okay, cool.
Okay. First of all, I think you are the right guy to explain to us an N1 block. What's really the difference?
So this has been like a massive contentious argument for a long time, and Herman from PRP and I have actually done a lot of block testing. We've done the videos on our channel if people haven't seen them, and then
there's a link down below.
The initial testing for hardness, bore thickness, all that sort of stuff was quite inconclusive. It has a thicker deck, right, which is where the deck is basically the top of the block where you bolt the head studs in. It has a thicker deck. It generally didn't test much harder on the hardness tester, and the bore thickness wasn't really any different. So to find out what's really different, we had to cut it up. We actually cut it up in slices. And
OEM block?
No, an N1 block and OEM block.
Yeah,
We've cut them up and we've compared them on camera to show what's different. So here's the funny part of some other research that links up to this. Gibson Motorsport that ran the Group A GT-Rs back in the 91, 92. When I met with them and had they had a 30th anniversary reunion, and I met with them, spoke with all their engineers, spoke with Alan Heafy, and he told me that when they did the engine dyno testing of a 26 block, guess what broke? It got a crack above the oil feed here, which everyone who has built GT-Rs knows you get a crack right here. It's common. You put JV weld over it and you keep going. It's totally normal. And they crack the deck. If you do the head studs too tight or you lift the head, you can crack the deck. So they experienced those problems back in 1990 on an engine dyno. Alan Heafy then flew to Japan with that block that he tested and cracked, showed it to Nismo and said, this is our problem.
92, 91.
90, 89, 90, that far ago. So what rocked up at Gibson Motorsport a few months later? A new block, and they said, use this. That block became the N1 block.
And so the N1 came out 90...
in the first V-Spec N1. So it came out in 92 or 93, like late 92, 93.
So you can say Australia really had a huge impact on the performance or on the capabilities.
On everything of the GT-R, ever. So here's the crazy part. Japanese culture is very much along the lines of they only fix what you tell them to fix. And guess what they changed? They increased the webbing around that part of the block and the bottom of their head stud so that it doesn't crack above the oil feed.
Just thicker? Or?
Yep, just more material, more bracing. It's just the design. You can't see it from underneath. You have to cut the block up, and the deck is thicker. So it fixed the two problems that the Group A team had, and that became the N1 block.
Australia. How much is it thicker?
Like 8 millimeters in certain areas. Like there's a lot of extra meat and material around the bottom of their head studs, not just the middle one. They actually did it on all of them.
So the
N1 block
is heavier.
It's heavier and stronger. It looks like they took some material out in a couple other spots, so it's not that much heavier. So they were smart about it. They didn't want to add weight because of the performance, so they added meat where it needed it. So we can't say that we invented the N1 block, but it's pretty circumstantial evidence, or even convincing evidence that our testing led to a new block. And then that block became the N1 block.
So how many different blocks are there? Because we went to Japan, we went to Nismo. 7,1 Millionen, das ist ein F-Sport Air Engine. Das ist eine große Ansaugbrücke. Also da ist alles dran, was irgendwie geht. Und dann haben wir hier noch die R2 und R1, die S2 Motoren. R32, R33, R34.
Yep.
they're different?
Sort of. So this is how it goes. A standard GT-R block, an 05U, is one type of block, and it's the same every year, 32, 33, 34. Then there's an N1 block, 24U. That was available in the R32, R33, R34 GT-R N1, and you also got it in the M-Spec NER and the V-Spec NER. The NER engines were N1 engines. N1 engines
The
also...
NER engines were N1 engines. Okay.
Correct. So they weren't just an N1 block, they had N1 turbos, N1 water pump, N1 oil pump, all that sort of stuff. They had everything. There's no such thing as an N1 crankshaft. They just sell it as that, but it's the same as a normal one, right? So there's no such thing. Yeah, anyone that says an N1 crankshaft is actually lying. It's just a standard crankshaft with a Nismo badge on it for the Heritage program. Same
price? No.
The N1 oil pump is slightly different, and so is N1 water pump to cope with being at high RPM all the time. So this is an N1 block, but there's no difference in it from any model of 32 to 34. Now, all these other engines you hear about, S-Tune, R-Tune, or whatever, they're all just these blocks, but rebuilt at Nismo.
N1.
Yep, and the unicorn block is the 555 GT500 block. There's a GT500 block, which is like an N1, but just slightly beefier again. Yep.
The cost, the amount of work you got to put into just making, how many are there of a 555 blocks then?
Not a lot. We don't know an exact number, but not a lot. Like there'd be less than 500 of them in the world.
So that's crazy money.
The Z-Tune used the GT block, and the actual GT500 race cars used the GT block. It never came out in any production car. You could buy it from Nismo. It only came in a Z-Tune, and it didn't come in any standard GTRs, the GT block. So it's super rare. If you find one now, they want 20,000 for it.
What would you say, why is the RB26 the engine that it is that everybody loves?
Mostly, honestly, it's because of the chassis that it comes in and the sound.
The sound?
Sound,
the
bro.
Sound?
Nothing beats the sound. It's the chassis. So the 2J is a famous engine. The GTR is a famous chassis. Does that make sense?
I think the RB...
It's because it came in that car.
I think it's both.
Yeah, it is.
And the Supra the same. The 2J, the MK4 Supra is a beautiful car still.
But it ain't a GT-R chassis. Like all-wheel drive, or full steer, one Group A, like there's so many. It's for me, it's not just the engine, it's the engine and car together. While with a 2J, it's more about the engine itself, because that's why it goes in everything, right? People put 2Js in everything. So I feel like the cult of 2J is an engine cult. The RB cult is still based around the car as much as the engine. And the noise is just,
it's so
the
different.
best.
So, but you would say this one is good for 1,000?
Oh yeah, no worries. So because it's an N1 block, we already know it can handle more grunt without it cracking and twisting, right? This one doesn't need a block brace or grout in it. We would normally grout and block brace a standard block or even an RB30 block, but the N1, not so much. Because we know we've got a big head on it as well, like this is ported, oversized valves,
can we have a look?
Valve springs, everything, yeah. So this is a 10,000 RPM head from CRD, right? Like, trust me. So that's as big as the exhaust is going to get, and then inlet is same deal. Like it's, yeah. And because we know we're going to make power up top, I'm less, in this application, I'm less worried about like what it does in the mid-range.
That's a big head. Das ist echt krass.
There you go.
Guck mal. Siehst du das?
Ja.
Die Mitte, ne?
Ja.
Vom Steg. Dann der Durchmesser allgemein. Guck mal hier.
So what we do is we get the inlet manifold gasket and we port to that.
Yeah, so
then we port match everything to the inlet manifold. Because the inlet manifold gasket factory is the ports aren't as big as the gasket.
Yeah.
So when we port, I mean, it's as big as you can port anyway. You can't go bigger than the gasket will let you go. Same on the exhaust side. So
and on the intake side, we just talked about it, you can go single throttle bodies, or you can
six
go...
throttle body. Or you can do drive-by-wire of each. Yeah, 6 or single.
Yeah. What would you recommend?
In your application, I would stay 6 throttle.
But the collector itself can be something like that then, or...
Okay, so what happens is, there's actually 3 pieces to it. I've got to get the other piece. So this is like a aftermarket 6 throttle. Well, I've got the base piece here. That goes onto the engine.
Yeah, no, I know.
Like
this
that.
way, yeah.
And then there's a water tube balance pipe across the top, and air balance tube, right?
Yeah, I know.
Then
the ugly one with the 2
correct.
pins.
Then the throttles go there, and then this manifold goes like that.
I know.
And this
the new one cleans up.
Oh, look at that. This has been ported to match that. This is your one.
And this always stays on it, because even if we go with the 6 throttle...
Drive-by-wire, you still need that.
You still need that.
This has basically like a balance tube for water, and balance, because water comes out through here. Look, 1, 2, 3. And then you need a balance tube because you can only get vacuum signal from this side of the throttle body. So It basically is a balance tube for the throttles and a balance tube for the water. So you have to use that. The only way you can get rid of this base is to go to a full V1 Hypertune inlet, which replaces everything. I've got one here if you want me to get it.
Yeah.
Right, wait here. I've got every inlet manifold upstairs. Wait here, I'll be back. So this one works fantastic for making power, but because the capacity is so big, because it's still designed the same as the big ones, it loses some throttle response and low down power, but didn't really make any difference up top at that sort of power level. Like at 500, 600, 700, 800, even 1,000, if you want to stay 6 throttle, this won our test. We've got a full video on it. We go into every detail of runner length, capacity, we measure the volume, everything. We go into all the detail. Once you go past 1,000, especially on an RB30 block, and you've got the capacity, we found that we went to a V1 with a single 82mm drive-by-wire throttle body, and I picked up 40 horsepower straight away and didn't lose any bottom end. Now, if I did that same comparison on a car with 600 horsepower, I would have lost bottom end and throttle response, but because
you're not moving so much air.
Correct. But once you start making 1,000 plus, and especially with an RB30, you go to single throttle inlet manifold. Done the test, done. Now, you can make 1,500 on 6 throttles. But you'd make more with the single. I've watched people run low 8-second passes with a standard inlet manifold. What? You shove boost through it, it'll work. So let's split it
What's
down
your boost goal? What's your boost goal?
On pump gas, I probably think stick to about 25 pound of boost on pump gas.
25 is 1.3, 4?
2 bar is 28, so like 1.7, 1.8 bar. Yeah. 1.7. That's about as far as you want to go on pump gas. Yeah, it's about as far as you want to go. If we had ethanol in it, I'd just be like, just keep turning it up until it runs out of turbo.
I mean, the 102 octane that we have in the gas station, that
should be all right.
Yeah, it should be all right.
I would say that it's going to make in the 600s on your pump fuel on our dyno, if that makes sense. What's it make on your dyno over there? I don't know, but it'll be a 10-second GT-R, no problem. So if you have the standard 6-speed with 411s, it's probably like high 10s. If you go a dog box, whatever you decide to do gearbox-wise will determine like where in the 10s it runs. To go in the 9s, realistically in a 34, you need E85.
I was doing a lot of RBs and a lot of GT-Rs when I was younger. So you would say, what do I have to do to really start it with high RPM and I don't kill the front diff and all this? Look, this is my goal.
Believe it or not, RPM's not really the killer in these. Mid-range case. So when I talked about...
car standing.
Yeah.
I got my RPM and I let it go.
Just ride the clutch. Put a clutch slipper in it and you ride the clutch. That's it. You have to. You need the RPM.
No, of course.
Yeah. Do not break it. You just ride the clutch. You just need the right clutch.
What do you mean? Oh, the right clutch?
The right clutch with a clutch slipper, and that's what helps it all live. If you dump the clutch in anything, you eventually break stuff, right? But we've got plenty of support gear for your drivetrain organised. Like it's got everything it needs, but honestly, it's how you drive it determines how long it lasts. If you ride the clutch, which is how you have to drive these things, it'll be fine. Even the stock 34 box have run 9-second passes. So, yeah. Okay, so let's turn it around because we talked about the block, we talked about the head. So the valves are the same size? 1mm oversized valves. So yeah, it has 1mm oversized valves.
How much potential you see with the 1mm oversized?
A lot. I'll tell you my theory on RB heads, and not everyone will agree. I have a theory. You either go all in or nothing. And what I mean by that is they get really good results.
Isn't that always the answer?
Correct. Yeah, I think it is for everything. But RB heads, I find that if you just do like drop-in cams, like a 260 or a 272 with like 9.15mm lift, even with standard valve springs, you get really good results, especially with adjustable cam gears. Then you've got the other end of the spectrum, which is this, fully ported, oversized valves, double valve springs. The cams are massive. They're like 11.5mm lift.
Can we see them? Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we should be able to pull them off. I'll just get an Allen key. They're big. Let me get an Allen key.
Es tut mir leid, dass es so viel Englisch ist.
Redet auch ein bisschen schnell.
Ja, das stimmt. Es tut mir wirklich leid. Also, es ist wirklich schon spaßig, weil er ist halt wirklich auf der Welt, würde ich schon sagen. Er ist einfach der GT-R-Typ. Ne? Also wie viel der testet und macht und kauft und macht und kaputt macht und fährt. Das ist wirklich eine andere Liga.
So
these are two...
they're over 280 degrees in duration, and they're over 11.5mm lift, so they're pretty big.
Yeah.
So when you get to a camshaft of a certain size, you actually have to machine the head to fit the camshaft in there. So.
But this one not?
Hey? Yeah, it is down there.
Okay.
So that's the machine work. See next to the bucket?
Yeah.
See how, so normally that just wraps around. So if you look at the standard one, right?
Oh yeah,
it's not pulled away as much.
Yeah,
so this one's been basically chamfered away to give that camshaft clearance to spin in the head.
Does it have higher idle?
Slightly. At 1,000 RPM, you'll get the brup, 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 brup. Like it'll, be like a rotary, but better.
Of course.
It'll sound better, go better, all those things.
Was man sieht ist, siehst du, dass da weggefräst wurde, neben dem Taschenstößel?
Yep.
Ja? Das ist, weil die Nockenwelle so viel Lift hat, da kommt so ein Nocken ran, dass der gar nicht durch den Kopf passt.
Yeah.
Heißt, du musst den Kopf
okay,
platt machen, um halt da alles durchzubekommen. So so the head gives us
the RPM and the efficiency at high RPM. That's where you get it. I mean, they're pretty good anyway, right? But this is the difference between one that you rev to 8 and one that you rev to 10.
So where we will...
This is a 10,000 RPM head, but here's your problem. Your exhaust manifolds and turbochargers won't let it keep making power to 10. It won't. That's why you see a lot of GT-Rs have really big exhaust housings on them. So like a 7685,
get the exhaust volume.
like a G45, etc. You need the exhaust volume because you got to remember RPM is a time-based thing. What is flow? Flow is a time-based thing. So people don't understand. It's not about torque when it comes to gas flow. It's about power because the revolutions per minute. So at 10,000 RPM, you can imagine how much gas comes out of it. Regardless of the power, there's a lot of gas. Because if engine efficiency has fallen over, even though the power may not even still be increasing, there's more gas flow coming out every extra revolution. If you haven't got the exhaust to get it out, you won't keep making power.
So where do you see the limitation in the exhaust housing?
Man, you'll be able to rev it to 9, but instead of having a power curve that's still going up, it's just going to be tapering off.
Yeah, but I would say we just let it go to 9. It's a thing that sometimes you just need 9.
Look, my R32 revs to 9,700, right? But power...
I remember this drive very clearly.
Power levels off at 8.5, but I revved it to 9.5 because it's awesome.
It is.
You saw it.
This short, when in the intro, we had the sequence where you were accelerating, and it just sounds like a Formula 1 car.
It's wild. I love that noise. So like for me, you're right. Like who cares if power falls over? They still rev it to 9.
Yeah.
But I've built you a head that revs to 10.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah, you never know.
Just in case you decide to call me and say, Andrew, I want to put a G45 1500 on it or something. I want to make 1,000. No problem.
You know what? I'm very into the single turbo thing, but I think the noise also that the GT-Rs make as a twin is very nice. It's just a very it's a very clean, straight 6.
Yeah,
you know,
I love the sound.
You can't compare it to anything.
Yeah. I've got a specific exhaust I want to build for this car to make sure it sounds hot. I've got a couple little tricks with the front pipes and everything, and making it sound really good.
Like what? I mean,
I'm not telling you. I'm going to show you when I finish it. We're putting a titanium exhaust on your car because I know that's what you want.
Titanium also the downpipe.
It'll have stainless dump pipes, but which are only about that long. And then after that, I'm going to have equal length, like large, because no one makes front pipes as big as I want. So I'm going to make titanium equal length front pipe into a 3.5-inch titanium system the whole way.
3.5.
Yeah.
We have to keep it cool with the sound.
Don't worry, I got it.
He got it. He doesn't even know.
You have a little button on the dash. You go quiet. Western Sydney.
He cut it out.
Okay, we will find out.
I just put 3 mufflers on it.
I mean, when you see the size of the crank, it shows you it can rev.
Oh yeah.
Wenn du die Kurbelwelle siehst, guck dir mal an. Guck dir mal an, den Versatz, wie klein der ist. Das ist ja unser Hub. Ja? Das ist der Hub. Und wenn du jetzt eine normale Kurbelwelle zeigst im Vergleich, dann ist es von hier nach da. Das ist wirklich ein Riesenunterschied. So, they have their own oil pump.
Yep. It's a billet oil pump. You can get a billet or cast housing.
This fits also to an OEM block?
Yeah.
It's an OEM block.
That's what you've got. And this is a sine drive. So you can get, the normal drive is just 2 flat edges and it can chamfer off the edge and break. You can get a spline drive or a sine drive. Now, Nido uses a sine drive where it's a wave. So you've got way more contact patch than just the normal RB one. But the reason why Nido don't like the spline drive, and I'm not saying spline drive is wrong, I'm just saying the reason they don't do spline drive is you get variation in clearances and tolerances based on temperature, right? You need a little bit of tolerance. So some sine drives don't have any tolerance. They lock in and there's no tolerance, we've seen them break. Doesn't mean that they're all wrong or they're not the right way to go, or in certain applications they aren't fine. I'm just saying this is the way Nido prefers to do it. So they get maximum contact patch like that, but you have to have that, there has to be some tolerance. Once it's hot and you've got oil pressure in it, it has to have it, right? So that's why they do it that way. And it's their I-beam rod.
I mean, this rod
That's
tells
just a normal rod.
Yeah, but when you see it, you know it can rev.
Oh yeah, short rod.
It's so short, everything is so compact, and compared to that, you have the perfect, nearly perfect square.
Yep.
No,
Just a little bit extra stroke on these, and that's
Bohrung,
it. Nice big
zu
gudgeon
Hub.
pin.
So
they have a rod and piston package below this and above this. They have a street division one, which is still fine for 900. This is like someone who says they want to back between 800 and sort of 12, 1300. Then they have a drag set up with a different rod and piston again. So. And then they obviously have alley rods and full-blown drag pistons. So my 32 has a different rod and piston to you.
what do you think about aluminium rods? Because so many people say different things. Would you say
I can tell you exactly what is about them.
I mean, would you buy or build an aluminium rod engine and keep the rods inside? And because some people say if you leave them too long in the block, they will die.
Now, what it is with aluminium rods is they stretch. The way that aluminium these don't like absorb any detonation or any torque abuse or any like essentially crushing the bearing. It gets transferred straight into the bearing, right? The aluminium rod's designed to kind of absorb a bit of stress, right? So it doesn't destroy a bearing. That's really what aluminium rod's all about, and weight, right?
Weight is the biggest thing.
Correct. But you notice how big an aluminium rod is. So the weight, you don't actually end up saving weight anyway, right?
They're beefy. They're beefy.
So they're beefy. But the thing about an aluminium rod is, if you ask a drag racer how long does aluminium rod last, they will tell you how many runs it lasts. And they'll tell you that on an RB making 3,000 horsepower, that they would suggest changing the rods, say, one guy might say every 10 full passes. Someone else might go, oh, we've pushed it to 20. But like they might say after a certain amount of passes, you don't know how long it's going to run. I know guys that have done alley rods in an Evo and done 50 passes in it and didn't break. But then one day, it's just going to break, right? And you'll grenade the engine. So alley rods, when you drive them normally, there shouldn't be any stress on them anyway. So really, they're measured in how many full passes on full power they do.
Do you know many people who drive aluminium rods?
In Sydney? Heaps.
No. I mean, in daily cars?
Nah, no way.
But
Not
why?
a daily car. Just due to that expansion and change and they stretch. That's why. I mean, in theory, if you're not booting
you're right.
shouldn't matter.
If you go in a street car and you're really not killing it.
Yeah. I mean, in theory. But now you just don't, like, how many hits did you give it? You gave it a second gear pull, then you drove normally, then you did. So you just don't know. That's the problem. It's like aircraft have preventative maintenance, right? It's not broken, but you're told you have to replace it. Same with race cars, 5,000 race kilometres. You get to 5,000 race kilometres and you're like, it's still working fine, why are we changing it?
Yeah,
preventative maintenance, someone has tested that product to tell you when to change it. Now with an alley rod, you put it in a street car, it's like, I don't know.
Das Ding ist, Aluminiumpleuel finde ich super interessant, auch mal für ein Projekt. Aber das Aluminiumpleuel, was es auch gibt für alle möglichen Rennmotoren, ist halt einfach so, dass es einmal etwas leichter ist. Die sind sehr beefy, wir können mal ein Bild einblenden, die sind im Vergleich zum normalen Pleuel immer sehr viel größer gebaut. Aber sie nehmen halt über die Zeit immer wieder Stress auf, ne, und verformen sich und Hitze und kalt und Hitze und kalt. Und sind halt in der Lage, diese Detonation oben auf dem Kolben in Verbindung mit dem Kolbenbolzen immer so ein bisschen abzufedern. Und dann verformen die sich leicht. Und irgendwann bist du halt einfach an einem Punkt, wo das Ding einfach krumm ist. Und einfach an einem Punkt ist, wo es einfach nicht mehr gerade sitzt. Weißt du? Und das haut dir dann irgendwann den Motor kaputt. Hingegen das geschmiedete Stahlpleuel ist etwas schwerer, aber wird immer identisch sein in seiner Position. Außer du kriegst halt komplett krumm, was halt auch geht. But to kill a rod like that, a forged rod, is it's impossible.
To break that, you have something else went wrong. You're not going to, like, I know how strong Nitto rods are. We've taken them to like hundreds of horsepower beyond what they call their rating. Yeah. And we've never had an issue. Like, yeah. But I mean, everything needs a buffer. Like I said, I've built you a 1,000 horsepower engine so that it's 600 on pump gas or 650. It's never going to have a problem. No. Right? I built my GT-R to be an engine capable of 1,600 to make 1,200. So it never has a problem. Not never, but you know what I mean? Like it's, but I've also built engines where it should have broken at 600 and I've made 800. So it's like, you can build cars two different ways. You can overkill them for reliability, or you can push them to the limit to be budget conscious, and you just have to accept the fact it might break. Like that's what we're playing with here. I've built GT-Rs on a shoestring budget that have gone into the 9-second zone, right? But how long do they last? I prove that they can last a long time if you have the right support gear, but I've watched other people make a heap of power, run one 9-second pass, and it blows up on the way home because they didn't have the support gear required for the stock bottom end to handle it. Right?
Happens to many people.
So you can have a cheap engine, but then you can't have cheap support gear. you can have an expensive engine, but you can't have poor support gear either. So it's like your support equipment's probably more important than the actual engine itself half the time. Because if you don't have the right support gear, it doesn't matter how good or bad your engine is, it's going to break anyway. I can only tell you what I know works because I've used it, trialed it, hammered the crap out of it and made sure it works. Like that's always been my attitude.
Also Leute, ihr seht, es geht ganz tief in die Materie des Nissans und ganz tief in den GT-R rein. Wir werden diese ganze Woche über, nicht nur Englisch, wir werden uns alles angucken, was es nur gibt. Und der Plan ist immer noch, dass unser GT-R pünktlich hier rauskommt und wir diesen Motor in diese Karre reinkriegen und wir dann zum GT-R Festival fahren. Das ist der Plan. Also, ihr hört, ich habe auch ein bisschen Erkältung. Also ich bin nicht ganz so fit. Das heißt, er muss ein bisschen mehr quatschen. Wir bauen uns wirklich den absoluten Traummotor für Deutschland. Natürlich ist der Begriff Traummotor weit. Wir könnten auch irgendeinen Viertelmeile-Monster bauen. Nur dann ist es halt irgendwann unrealistisch. Aber das, was wir bauen, ist einfach ein übertrieben stabiler, sicherer R34 GT-R, weil die Reise mit dem ganzen Single-Turbo-Monster-Ding habe ich hinter mir. Das will ich nicht mehr, sondern ich will mir den perfekten Traum RB26 bauen. Also, bis morgen oder Montag.
Gassed up in low, but core surviving. Freed up in the dome, core what's next? Fact check me, I don't take L's much. Me and Kaz got a dream by any means must. Aim for the peak high, many trees burn. Hold back on the beat, don't really need one.
Nowhere that I can't stop. The fire burns deep in my core. My eyes, they don't know fear.